The good news is you can do this. And I'm going to encourage you, whatever you've been through, my prayers are with you, my thoughts are with you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rola, clinical psychologist, and today I'm going to talk to you about what is common to every suicide. Before I continue with this topic, I would love you to subscribe, press the notification bell so that you have immediate access to my videos. I also would like you to follow me on social media at Ask Dr. Rola, AskDrRola. We know that suicide rates are on the rise. There's been a dramatic increase in suicide across all age groups, all socioeconomic groups as well. The year 2019, the first year of the COVID-19 pandemic, was when we saw the highest rates of suicide in the United States of America. It is said that in the history of mankind, people are at the loneliest that have ever been, even though we have various means of communicating that was not available 100 years ago. This is a critical issue. Many times there's a focus on people in the public eye, people who are news anchors, people who are celebrities who have committed suicide, died by suicide, and it makes it, people are in shock. How could somebody so beautiful, so handsome, so accomplished want to die? How could they be so depressed? That kind of thinking and that kind of perception of depression and suicide is actually working against us because it is erroneous and it may be preventing many of us in our families, in our communities, from seeing those signs and helping those who are suffering and hopefully reducing the rates and preventing the risk and actually the incidence of it in our community. So today is about going beneath the mask. It is possible to be well-adjusted, successful, and die by suicide, as we know. Kate Spade, I love my Kate Spade purse. I carry it with me everywhere I go. She committed suicide some years ago within the context of a difficult marriage. Anthony Bourdain loved watching this man go into different cultures of the world and explore those cultures with food. Former Miss USA, beautiful. I think she was a reporter for E.T. She committed suicide as well. So many people that are considered successful. But what about the millions of other people in your family, in your community, a friend, a loved one who has gone on, a co-worker who has gone on to die by suicide? What are some of those common characteristics, regardless of where they come from and their status in the society, whether they're well known or not? That is what I'm going to be talking to you about today. These characteristics helps us to put away some of these erroneous perceptions we have about suicide and help us to get to the bottom of the issue in order to identify these signs early, help those who are suffering, and overall reduce the risk and the incidence of suicide in our families and in our communities. What are some of those characteristics? Let's start talking about it. One of the main ones to pay attention to, and everyone is important, is that the person who dies by suicide sees suicide as a solution to their problem. They have handled many other areas of their lives well, in some cases, or not. But the problem they're facing right now feels insurmountable. And the way the person who dies by suicide perceives the solution in terms of their options is that dying is a way out. And they consider it as a viable option. Yes, you and I disagree with that. Somebody else may be facing the same issue and see other options, but in their case, it is the one option, solution that they have to the problem. Another characteristic is they see suicide as a means of escape, which means that many people who die by suicide, about all of those who die by suicide, feel trapped in their problems. They feel that there is no way out but to die. At least if I die, this is how they will think, the bullying will stop. At least if I die, whatever they're saying about me on social media, I will not be able to view it. At least if I die, I will not deal with the shame of losing my marriage. Whatever the issues are, whatever the precipitating issues are surrounding the time in which they attempt to kill them, which they go ahead to kill themselves, the person does not see a way out but to harm themselves. They feel trapped. And I hope as I'm discussing these commonalities with you, you can begin to develop a lot of empathy for anybody who has attempted suicide or died by suicide. Another characteristic is the person is overwhelmed by intolerable psychological pain. When someone goes through an accident on the highway, or there's a house fire, or they have a stroke, we see the signs and we get immediate help. We call the firefighters, we call the ambulance, and we get them to a place to try to save their lives. When it comes to psychological pain, that is not immediately obvious. And oftentimes those who are severely depressed do not have the vocabulary to articulate what they are feeling, because the pain is unbearable and the pain is intolerable. That pain weakens them mentally, emotionally, and physically. In some cases, some of them are catatonic. They can't even move, or they're blunted. It's just the same look, and they're flattened in their affect. They are going through pain. What is motivating this desire to end their lives is this psych ache, we call it, that is not immediately obvious and can be missed, especially when the person seems to be doing well in other areas of their lives. Another area that is common to every suicide is that the person who is experiencing suicide does not feel that deep emotionally connection with someone that would help them to cope with the problems and the psychological ache. This does not mean, and with the psych ache, the psychological pain, this does not mean that they don't love you as a family member. This does not mean that they don't feel loved. But as far as this problem and this pain that they're experiencing psychologically, they do not feel that the connection they have emotionally with their loved ones, with their friends, with their partner, whoever it is, or their co-workers, they do not feel like that connection is a place where they can process their pain. They can tell their family member that they love them and they care about them, but maybe they feel like they're going to be a burden to that person. Maybe they don't feel like that person would understand, or that person that they love is going through enough. They don't want to bother them. Whatever the reasons are, the emotional bonds that they have are not deep enough that they feel that it can help them as a buffer, as a way to cope with what they're experiencing. Another aspect too is that they do not feel connections. They don't feel like they belong. They may be in a room of people that love them and care about them, but they do not feel that they belong. For example, they may feel that everybody else in the room seems happy, seems like they're handling their business. So the person who is severely depressed and suicidal, thinking about suicide, will think, I'm the only one that feels this way. So they feel that they don't belong in that group. They feel that they don't belong in their community. They don't belong at school, at work. Something about them is off. And even though the others around them may not feel that way, that is how they feel. And that is what tends to move them in direction of wanting to give up on life and end their lives. And I'm going to be doing this in 2 videos. So the very last point I want to talk about in this video is what is common to every suicide is that the person has engaged in self-destructive patterns before. Suicide is the last way out, path out, route, but they've engaged in other ways to handle their pain and their problems that has not been a positive way. This doesn't mean they're bad people. This doesn't mean that they're incompetent. They just have not been able to handle their challenges and their problems in ways that is positive. Even though family members may feel that they've handled it, but there are underlying ways in which they've handled it that may be masked as well. And I'm going to talk about some of those self-destructive coping. One of them is a pattern of not asking for help. Many people who end their lives by suicide have a challenge with admitting that they're struggling and that they need help. And the idea of getting help makes them feel weak and incompetent, even though that's not true, but that is their mindset. Another way of coping is to neglect their overall mental health, which means they may be going through a lot of stress, going through a lot of challenges, and they tend to minimize it by engaging in other things like overworking, like taking on more goals. They may mask it with alcohol or drugs, or just trying to appear happy, but they have this inner stress. They're neglecting their mental health. They're not sleeping well. They may not be eating well, whether that is under eating or overeating. There's a neglect of their mental health. There could also be a neglect of their physical health, where they're not getting their checkup with the doctor. They're not seeing the doctor or following up on some things the doctor is asking them to do, following up on what the therapist is asking them to do or the psychiatrist is asking them to do. Some of these patterns then kind of evolve and, worsen to the point where suicide seems to be the way out. So this emotional and psychological anguish has been going on for quite a while. Another area in which there is self-destructiveness is alienating themselves from others. They may be in a group, engage in parties with others, but they're less likely to share what is going on and just keep up appearances, not because they want to do that, but they may not feel like they have the vocabulary. So they alienate, they isolate from others. They also engage in drug and alcohol abuse. There's a lot of self-pity, which means that they feel so down and they see themselves as incompetent, as weak, as not powerful. Many of these self-destructive coping mechanisms engender that feeling of that there's nowhere else to go, and that is what leads them to a place where they actually do die by suicide. As you can see, this goes beyond what the person does, what neighborhood they live in, how pretty they are or handsome they are or not in the eyes of others. Their thoughts and their emotions and behaviors that a person who dies by suicide engages in, that we need to be looking out for in order to support everyone who is struggling. I would love you to subscribe, share this video with as many people as possible. We need to keep spreading information, and I will talk to you next time. I want to thank you very much for listening. Talk to you soon. Bye now.